So, in a previous video, I showed you guys what compound inequalities were and we learned how to graph them. I want to spend a little more time getting a better sense of what they actually mean and how they're used in problems in this video. There are two types of compound inequalities. Compound inequalities are when you have two or more inequalities at the same time. Or inequalities, overall, are not that bad to deal with. Those are things like x is greater than 5 or x is less than 2. So the word or in general means it can be one or it could be the other. As long as you fit one of them, you're cool for the most parts. So if you're bigger than 5, you're fine. If you're less than 2, you're fine. We really don't care. As long as you fit one of those two descriptions, you're good. So on a number line, there'd be 5. All the numbers bigger than 5 are going to get shaded. And 2 would maybe be over here. All the numbers less than 2 are good. As long as you're in one of those two parts, you're good. The only numbers that really don't fit in this description are numbers like 3. Numbers that are in between here. It's not bigger than 5. It's not less than 2. Or inequalities, overall, kids don't have as many issues with. The ones that do give kids a little bit of trouble are and inequalities. The word and means something very different than or. Or kind of implies one or the other is cool, this or that, it's fine. And, though, means both parts have to be true. That's probably even worth writing down. So when you're doing an and inequality, both parts must be true. Or must be fulfilled, or however you want to say that. Must be true. And typically, and inequalities are written in something, this is not a very mathematical way of putting it, but it helps me, and it's how I like referring to them. I refer to and inequalities as sandwiches for the most part. And notice, if you wanted to, really cool here, it's a sandwich. So hopefully that'll help you keep straight when you're dealing with each scenario. Oars are like the oars on the boat that I explained in the previous video. And is like a sandwich. So I'm going to give you guys instructions right now on how you make a sandwich when you're doing a problem. First of all, here is what a sandwich typically looks like. You have 3 parts to it, 2 inequality signs, number in the middle. Or variable, I should say, in the middle. When you're doing these, you want you to have your variable in the middle. When you make a sandwich, it's important, just for the sake of being able to see what's going on here, that both signs are less than or equal to. In other words, no greater than signs in your final sandwich. So no greater than or equal to when you're making sandwiches. You want to fix that if you have them, because typically it's confusing to look at when you have that. Finally, in a sandwich, your smallest number must be on the left side for it to make sense, and your largest number must be on the right side. This is kind of a little diagram here. Oh, you guys can't even see that. Sorry. This is a little diagram here showing you how you make a good sandwich. So, smallest number, less than or equal to, variable, another less than or equal to, largest number in the problem. So, let me show you how this comes into play and how it works in a few examples. So, we have a couple and inequalities right here, and I'm going to show you how you interpret what they're actually saying. I gave you rules for how they work, but I want to show you why those rules actually make sense. When you have an inequality like this, you can cover up one part of it, like cover up this part right here, and analyze what's left over. So that part says, if you read it backwards, x is greater than or equal to 10. So x has to be bigger than 10, and at the same time, x has to be less than 6. So I want you guys to try to think of numbers that are bigger than 10, but less than 6 at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. You can't be bigger than 10 and less than 6. That doesn't even work out. The sandwich didn't work out here because they put their bigger number on the left, right here. There is no solution to this. That doesn't even make sense. Can't be bigger than 10 and less than 6. On my next example here, they have greater than signs in the problem. That's no good. When you make a sandwich, you don't want to have those. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong. It's just that we need to fix it. First of all, let me cover it by 2 pieces here and see what we're left with. X has to be smaller than 15, and at the same time, it has to be bigger than negative 10. So smaller than 15, numbers like 12, 5, negative 40, stuff like that, and bigger than negative 10. That actually makes sense. There are numbers that work there, numbers between -10 and 15. So there are answers to this problem. The way that we fix this, because these signs are not good like this, we're going to kind of turn the whole problem, like flip it over the other way. So I'm going to send this -10 over here, like I'm turning this whole problem around. I send my x here, and my 15 is right here. So I basically flipped it all around, kind of along the x right there. And I got to make sure the alligators are still eating the same numbers. So the -10 alligator was eating x, and the 15 alligator is eating the 15. So this is the same thing. These mean the same. I just turn the whole problem around, and now it's easier to process. Bigger than -10, smaller than 15. When you put these on a number line, all you're going to do when it's a correct written sandwich, you're shading the part in between. Numbers that are in between -10 and 15. Open circle, shade, and I'm done. Third problem here, same sort of deal. I want to turn this whole problem around because I have greater than signs, which is no good. -5, -8, make sure the alligators still eat the same things. Want to eat the x, want to eat the -8. Now I just analyze it. Can you have numbers that are bigger than -5 and smaller than -8 at the same time? The answer is no, you can't. -5 is bigger than -8. This number's in the wrong spot. The sandwich is made incorrectly. It does not make sense. There are no solutions. Got one more problem in this video. I want to take an and inequality written like this and write it as a sandwich. Usually I don't really care for these, where it's got the word and in it. You will almost always, as you get into more advanced math classes, see the sandwich method for writing these. So what I'm going to do here is take my numbers, put the smallest on the left, x in the middle, and the biggest on the right, and I'm going to make my alligators go where they're supposed to go and hope that it makes sense. So I put the smallest number over there, biggest number over here, x in the middle. Let's see, this alligator is supposed to eat the x, this alligator is supposed to eat the -10, and lucky for us, that does make sense. So a quick graph right here, we got -37, we got -10, we want to shade open circles, shade in between, and sandwiches you shade in between the two numbers, and we are done.